Hello, Internet. My name is Ryan Ingram, and today I'm going to go over my favorite resources for getting started in real estate investing. These are books, podcasts, and other YouTubers that I found to be extraordinarily helpful along my journey and just getting me started in real estate investing. Now, I wouldn't be a real human if I didn't start with my book, Rental Property Insurance: An Investor's Guide to Insurance. I'll link that in the description, and ultimately, that book is just, in my opinion, all of the basics that you need to know about insuring your rental properties as you get started on this. And of course, I know a guy that writes insurance. The second is a classic. It's Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think this is a book that you need to reread on an annual basis because this book just covers the absolute fundamentals about how to interact with another human that makes them feel loved and special and super important, because at the end of the day, they are, and most likely, they hold the keys and all of the resources that you'll ever need to be successful. So you should treat those folks with a lot of respect and make them feel loved. The third, another classic that you should also reread on an annual basis, and that is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's a hardback. I don't think I'm going to throw that one. But nonetheless, in this book, it goes over just the idea, the mindset, and everything that you need to know to be successful and how to go about surrounding yourself with the right people in order to help you get successful faster. And one of the things that I constantly attribute at least 80% of my success to is being in the right room of people. I've been parts of masterminds that have just fundamentally changed my life. The next is a book by John Schwab, and it's Building Wealth One House at a Time. My strategy, my personal preference is towards single family homes, so I found this book to be very helpful. In this book, he lays out some really good ground rules as to interest rates that you should try to stay under, how to analyze properties by his method, and just how to appropriately view long-term wealth and how just buying one house at a time can absolutely change your life. And lastly, this book is super important for anybody that is looking to build a business and have any sort of scale, and that is The E-Myth. Now, this book really allowed me to jumpstart my real estate investing career. And one of the things that I'll say most notably is that this book gave me the insight and opened my eyes to, as I was meeting other investors, I was trying to figure out what their bottlenecks were. What did they get caught up on that prevented them from acquiring more properties? And then I used that information to attempt to help me scale more quickly. And I think the first thing that I really noticed is that a lot of people's bottlenecks were the actual management of the properties. I've noticed that the people that manage their own properties, a lot of them really got burned out and didn't even want to take on more properties to purchase once they got close to 10 because they just didn't want any more tenants or any more problems. So one of the first mental notes I made to myself as I met a lot of other investors is that I do not want to manage my own property. So when I bought my first property, I immediately put it under management, even though realistically, I could have done it myself without sacrificing much time. Now, there are a few other books that I want to recommend that I don't have physical copies of. I just listen to them on Audible. The first one is Build a Rental Property Empire by Mark Ferguson. That book is extraordinarily helpful and just one more investor's perspective on how you should go about building your real estate empire. The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. That's another staple that you should most certainly read at one point. Gary lays out the framework that he thinks all investors should abide by in order to build a phenomenal, cash flowing, and very stable portfolio. If you have any interest in apartments or commercial property, then Brian Murray's Crushing It in Apartments and Commercial Real Estate is a very good book to start with. And truly, like I've said before, everybody has their own personal preference, but I don't really think there's a wrong way to go about real estate investing if you have your 30 to 40 year goggles on. So if you're like me and want to focus on single families to 4-unit properties, then you don't have to do apartments or commercial real estate. There's no real right or wrong, but nonetheless, this is a phenomenal read for all of those interested. If you are new to real estate investing, then I would highly recommend consuming tons of different content and figuring out which which form of real estate investing best fits your personality, your long-term goals, and then go from there. But regardless, don't be pressured into one way over the other. They all have their pros and cons. Matt Faircloth with Bigger Pockets wrote a book called Raising Private Capital. If you are on the dark side of real estate investing where you're trying to do this very creatively with no money down, then I highly recommend checking out that book to really figure out how to go about raising private money from your immediate friends and family circle. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't have any friends or family that have any money to invest, you're probably wrong, and Matt Faircloth is going to explain that to you. The book on rental property investment by Brandon Turner, host of the Bigger Pockets podcast, that is a very good book to start as well. Bigger Pockets really does a phenomenal job at putting out tons of content that will help the beginner real estate investor. So if you haven't read that book, that is also a phenomenal one to just go ahead and add into your mental arsenal. And lastly, as far as book goes, I would highly recommend The Big Leap by Hendrix. This has nothing to do with real estate investing per se, but it has everything to do with the actual investor, which is you. So I would highly recommend reading this book. It helps you identify behaviors that you have that are just completely destroying all of the things that you are working so hard towards. It's how to identify those, how to curb those, and really ultimately how to become the best version of yourself for the benefit of your family and all those you love. All right, now for podcasts that I think are very helpful. You should definitely check out the Bigger Pockets podcast. I think for the most part, especially the older episodes, are really beneficial for anybody that is willing to just hear a lot about a lot of different forms of real estate investing to attempt to figure out which form of real estate investing best appeals to you. Now, I was recently interviewed on the True Wealth Investors podcast. I would highly recommend that one. Chad Harris does a phenomenal job at discussing his rental portfolio, along with interviewing several other real estate investors like myself that really know what they're talking about and have a good grasp on things. Now, if you are 50 or over, I would highly recommend the Old Dawgs REI Network podcast. And he has a phenomenal story where he was a missionary. He came back and he saw his retirement just dwindling away. And now he has over 1,000 units in a very short amount of time and has just absolutely crushed it in real estate investing and really brings together a good network of people and tons of stories that are highly inspirational and very motivational. Now, there's also the Rental Income podcast with Dan Lane and also Joe Fairless's The Best Ever Real Estate Investing podcast or something like that. It just says best ever in really bright red. It's got a very distinct logo. He is a giant multifamily syndicator and has a lot of units and is super helpful to all of those looking to syndicate multifamily deals or get in larger real estate investing properties such as just giant apartment complexes and commercial properties. So that's about it for the podcast that I would highly recommend. Again, this is a lot of content. You don't have to consume it all at once, but definitely sooner than later if you want to get serious, if you want to really figure out what is your niche or what area of real estate investing are you going to carve out and really go deep in. Because like I've said before, I would highly recommend diving deep into one area of real estate rather than trying a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit more of this. Just because I think you can have more of an impact on the area in your personal life if you get really good at one thing and drive very deep into that type of real estate investing. But just one man's opinion. You don't have to listen to me. Now, there are also in-person network meetings that you can go to if you are familiar with the Real Estate Investors Association or the RIA. I would highly recommend going to RIA's website. I'll link that in the description below, along with all of these resources that I've already named. And you're going to be able to find your local chapter of that RIA. Now, don't get suckered into anything. A lot of these RIAs are primarily to bring a bunch of real estate gurus in, and they pitch you on courses. They give you a little bit of free content and then try to sell you their several $1,000 course. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying any of those, but I would recommend going there to meet other real estate investors, other people that want to get into real estate investing, and also hear a lot of the free pitches that are just going to be very thought-provoking and sometimes informational. Nonetheless, it's a great way to go out there and meet other people that have probably been real estate investors for a long time. Now, equally, there's probably going to be a lot of people that have thought about real estate investing for a long time as well without ever having done anything. So definitely keep your eye open for that. Now, Bigger Pockets also has like a local meetup section of their website where you can find events that aren't hosted by Bigger Pockets, but members of Bigger Pockets hold local meetings. And those are a phenomenal way to network and really find people that are active in real estate investing in your area. I met a lot of my mentors here based on the Bigger Pockets local network meeting. That's been very helpful, and I'm super thankful for that meetup. Now, as far as YouTube channels go, James Ing, he is a mortgage broker for commercial properties. I would highly recommend that you check out his channel. He goes very in depth with how to finance commercial properties, how to underwrite them, analyze them, and just overall how to get involved in the multifamily space. Highly recommend James if you're interested in that space. Now, there's also some rascal named Ryan Ingram that I think you should most certainly check him out and subscribe to, and just go through and like all of his videos, because he's just super helpful in trying to figure out what type of real estate investing you want to get involved in. Because especially if you're interested in the single family to 4-unit type of real estate investing, then he goes through like all of the deals that he's ever done. He dives deep into like the appropriate mindset you should have in order to be a successful real estate investor. And he's even willing to answer all of the comments and questions that you ask. That's crazy. What a good deal. And unlike these other gurus, he's never going to ask you for any money. He'll give it to you for free. How can you argue with that? All right, so I think that is plenty of information and resources to keep you busy for quite some time. These are all valuable pieces of content that I found to be super helpful in my life and on this real estate investing journey. So if I missed anything really good that's been very helpful to you, please comment that below, because I'm always looking to learn a lot more and expand my network and just resources available to me, so that whenever I have issues, I can find a few other people that have had those issues as well and learn from them. So thanks so much for watching, and look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.